Hi everyone, I am so incredibly happy to be here. I have had the privilege of doing a couple of presentations for Parents Challenge, and each time I am motivated and pumped up. So I really love that you have invited me again for this conversation. And I was speaking with Deborah Hendricks and preparing this session probably last August, and we were talking about how important it is for families to be articulate when they're speaking with their teachers and schools, and often parents don't have the language to communicate their child's diverse needs, nor do they often understand the language that the school is speaking. And so I thought it would be a fun topic to provide you with that language, have you with the opportunity to practice that language, and just think about your children differently. And as based on my bio, I have been doing this work for over 20 years, and my expertise is early childhood education. So I am an expert on development. I really love this stuff. So you'll see me very excited. So get pumped up, get pumped up, get pumped up. I think anytime we're talking about our children, it is a wonderful opportunity. So tonight's presentation, you are your child's first teacher. Is everybody able to see the screen well at that level? Can everybody see? Awesome. Today we're going to have a couple of goals. So first, make the connection between parenting and child development. Define the developmental continuum. All those things sound like big words, but you are going to be able to use those words when you leave today. And then learn the language of child development, and then practice strategies and techniques to enhance your child's overall development. And everyone should have a worksheet, because we will do some work together and have some conversations. And if you don't, I think that Melissa was passing those out. And so part one, why is parenting critical to child development? Why is parenting critical? For anybody want to say why parenting is critical? Yes. You're the first teachers? Yep. Huh? You do what? Read to your children.
You give them their first idea of sense of self.
Oh, sense of self. And so now that I'm a grandma, I just really pay attention to all these details. But thinking about yourself in an powerful way is really important. So when you go into a school that you're like, I am the mama, I am the daddy, and I know a little bit of something about my child. You know every nuance of your child. You know what makes them happy, you know what makes them sad, and you even have some dynamic strategies that can be replicated in the school setting. So before we get into this, I want to just talk about who we are as individuals. Yuri Bronfenbrenner, and I promise I'm a professor, but I will not bore you, but we need to do this for context, okay? So Bronfenbrenner is my favorite theorist of all. And the reason he's the favorite is because he talks about this system of environments. He says that each person is a product of all the environments that they're exposed to. Now that's pretty cool, right? So I want you to think of yourself. Think when you were born and you were cute and adorable and you had chubby cheeks. You were born into a family, right? And that family is your primary environment. That's where you get those first experiences, your first understanding of who you are, forming your identity. And then that second environment might be the school, the church. These are other factors that impact who you are, the things you believe in. I am a student who thought that you need to know your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Now that I'm a developmental professional, I have a different way of that, but I learned that in school, that those were that's the formative information to be a really great student. And then the neighborhood, like you're in this beautiful community center, how the neighborhood supports the things that you do and the interests of your family. And then lastly, the society at large. And I don't want to bring up 2020 and COVID, but that's when we really realize that everyone is interconnected. Anyone have that epiphany, or was everybody just locked down eating candy bars? That's what I was doing. I'm just saying. But you realize during that time, like, wait a minute, I am not an island, right? Is that the first time when you couldn't go get your nails done or you couldn't get milk at the grocery store? You were like, oh, I'm stuck. Okay, everybody awake? Everybody awake? Everybody awake? Oh, I'm stuck. I'm here by myself. I need everyone else. I need the folks at the grocery store. I need the folks in my community, the church. I need all of those aspects. Bronfenbrenner says that we are a product of all of those systems that are interrelated. And so our children are a product of all of those systems. And so when we look at this model, it's important to think of yourself as a child in the family that you were born in the community, in the neighborhood, and your experiences in adulthood. But then also, what was your child born into? So when your child is born and they have those, that we all look, my grandchildren were born, I couldn't wait to get to the hospital and say, oh, I know that baby looks like Gigi. I know the baby looks like Gigi. And everyone was like, no, I think it looks like Papa. What? Right? We look at the fingers, the toes, the face, the hair, all of those characteristics that are carried through with your family. Sometimes we can look at young children and say, you look like your great-great-grandpa. That's how strong those traits are. That's the stuff we're born with. We are born with it. It's just how we're made. It is our uniqueness. It's why we're each a masterpiece. But then we have this nurture, and that is what you're born into. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to excite this crowd. I know there has to be something to excite this crowd, but what you're born into. So think about your own family. What are you born into? Are you born into a family that is really caring? My sister and I were talking when we grew up. Everyone said that they loved you. So many times you thought that was your name. My name was Love, because hi, I love you. Hi, I love you. Every aunt, every uncle, everyone, that's all we heard. And we were in an environment, we were inundated with love. And so as adults, we say that. I say that when I pick my clothes up from the cleaners. Hey, girl, love you. It's really a natural way for my expression, because I grew up in that. And so think about your own experiences as a child, and the experience that your children are a part of. And this is really important, so get this piece, because I know you're like, how is this relevant for me being the child's first teacher? But this is relevant when you go into the classroom to know that your child had, not only were they born as the most beautiful human on the planet, but they also bring this good stuff to the classroom. Good stuff to the classroom. So when I was a little girl, my uncles, and some of you may be old enough, Chatty Cathy, there was like a little doll. My uncle's like, that girl is Chatty Cathy, and here I am now. That's all I do for work, talk. So who would have known, right? And so the good stuff that your kids bring into the classroom. And so you are your child's first teacher. And then please know that when you're going to the school, and many families downplay who they are, be proud of who you are, and do it with boldness to say, my child is amazing, and this is why my child is amazing. And so why is this really important? This is really important because those aspects that we bring with us, that's almost your toolkit, your strength, your armor, the stuff that carries you through the other end. And so as adults, right now I just want you to think in your mind one problem that you solved today. You solved something. Right? Well, my solve was, where are my keys? We solve stuff every day. And so if, when I don't have coping strategies, where are my keys means, I can't come to this lovely event this evening. But as an adult, I get coping strategies, and I yell at my husband, find my keys. Right? So we all have those coping strategies that we're able to use to get to the next thing. Well, guess what? Our children are observing us. So we are showing them, demonstrating, modeling for them those same coping strategies. So do you ever see children? I have thousands of hours, literally thousands of hours observing children. And I went into one setting, and the children were playing with blocks, and the boys were like kicking the blocks, the girls were building things with the blocks, and the one child knocked the castle down. I mean, I guess it wasn't a castle, it looked like a castle to me. I'm putting my interpretation on there. But when it fell down, 3 children melted down. Oh no! We can't do that. Oh, no. Someone help me. And one little guy said, oh, it's no big deal. We can do the same thing tomorrow. That is resiliency. He learned that from somewhere, and it was at home. Mom, dad, grandpa, someone was able to reinforce that things happen, and there are always opportunities to recreate new opportunities on the next day. And so resiliency is that ability to bounce back from difficult circumstances. In this case, some children have really tough things to get through. And think about your own childhood. I think the easiest way to think about what children go through, sometimes when we become adults, we forget our childhood. So how many of you have forgotten your childhood? Okay, how many of you are awake? Okay, I got it. Okay, now I'm in the right crowd. Okay, so think about your childhood, and sometimes it's really, really difficult to go way back because you got those problems like I can't find my keys, right? Or I got to pay my water bill, or guess what? It was a flood in the basement, or whatever those things that we do every day. But think about your own childhood and those skills you had for resiliency, the things that helped you get through to the next situation. You're modeling those things for your children now. And this is an opportunity for adults to strengthen the capacity of children. And so in this conversation, what you will hear me say is what children can do. How many of you have been to a parent-teacher conference? Okay, so give me, someone shout it out. How does a parent-teacher conference usually start?
With what all he does right. With what all he does well.
What's wrong? Anybody else have an experience? She said what they usually start with what is wrong. That's a great parent-teacher conference. Anybody else have an example? Oh, work it.
Like they say, how have you been? Or how has anything been wrong in your life? Has anything been right today?
Speak it, Professor. Yes. So, but many parent-teacher conferences, the teachers frame things because they're trying to do a quick fix. They know it's like a quick touch point with the parent, so they're going to say, excuse me, I need to tell you, okay. All the paint is on the floor and your baby did it. But tomorrow we're going to have a better day. And so that's generally how it happens, and it's just human nature, right? The teachers under this really tight constraint of time, they want to get everything out in a few minutes. They want to create a resolution for their classroom, and they're not necessarily speaking often from the lens of the child. So another way, and if you're ever in a parent-teacher conference with me, I'm going to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to email you, text you, and I'm going to say, today your baby poured all the paint, and it was the most magnificent artwork that I've ever seen. And so think about what children are doing right. Speak the language of what children can do. You can't always count on other folks speaking that language. So even when you go to the school and say, we had a rough night last night, so there's going to be some interesting opportunities, right? Instead of saying, he had a rough night last night, so he's probably not going to listen to anything, and nothing's going to go right for you, and everybody's going to have a sad day. Parents, think about how you speak about your children. Talk about what is going well. And then just an overview of resiliency is that stuff, it's that grit. It's the stuff that kids fall down on their bike and they get up and they ride again. My son, when he was younger, he loved rollerblades. I cannot skate. I cannot get on anything with wheels. Barely driving a car, so watch out on the parking lot. And he skated everywhere. He would fall and he'd skate and he'd skate and he'd skate and he'd skate. And just that demonstration of stick-to-itness. I can do it. You can't stop me, and here I come. Those are the elements that foster resiliency, the ability to problem solve, to get through one hard thing to another hard thing. And then lastly, before we get into the how, why is this important? It is important to understand how to speak about children because children need your support. I'm going to say that again. Your children need your support. Your children need you to speak and celebrate their beauty, their value, their capacity. You need to speak that way about your children. Because the unfortunate circumstances nationwide that in preschool, now this is scary to me because we often do think about high school. I have some colleagues that do research on high school, and I love the babies. We have the same outcomes. 6.7 children are being expelled out of 1,000. Is anybody shaking their head? Is anybody awake? Does that make you say, what? So I'm 2 years old and I cannot go to school. What? Right? Anybody in shock and ooh, ah? I want you to think about that because this is any child. It's a higher propensity with black and brown children. Higher propensity with boys. Yes, ma'am.
If someone's too young and they're like, why can't I go to school? Because they're too young and if they see other kids going to school, why can't they?
I love you. That was a perplexing question. If you're young, why can't you go to school? If other kids are going, why can't you? I agree that yes, you for president. Okay, what is your name? Nababi. You rock. The other instance in Colorado, 10. So we're in Colorado, so guess what? Your baby, it really has a likelihood. 10 out of every 1,000 children are removed from preschool. Is anybody with me? Is anybody shaking their head? When you go to work and you drop your baby off at preschool, do you think that you're going to get the call to say, you know what? You got to come back. Whoa, we're awake. Yeah, isn't that scary? So this is how it happens. And so I'm going to share with you some of the strategies. So actually it shouldn't happen, but these are some ways that you hear it. Like and I'm going to use my son's name. Ryan is having such a tough day. Can you come in the classroom and sit with him today? That's an expulsion. That means that the teacher has relinquished the responsibility of the child in the classroom. Ryan was running really, really hard, and at nap time, he doesn't rest really well. So can you pick him up and take him to lunch and then bring him back after everybody's awake? That's expulsion. Ryan's having a hard day today. Can you pick him up early today? Expulsion. These things don't sound like expulsions, do they? But they are, yes.
But they can actually expel because my grandson was
They can expel, yes.
expelled from
And it depends on what school. So there are some guidelines and there's anti-expulsion rules and laws that are out there, but the pseudo ways are the ways that are the scariest for me because they're not saying they're expelling your child. They're saying that Ryan just can't sit still. Can you come sit with him today? I'm giving you guys some information. You're going to say, excuse me, you're not expelling my baby. No, no, and no. But think of that. It sounds so soft, doesn't it? It sounds like a really easy way, like a logical thing, a logical piece of support to garner. And then, again, African-American boys are expelled. Walter Gilliam does some beautiful research. It's ongoing, and he talks about the expulsion and talks about the root of it. And so I'm the mom of a little brown boy, and this was really a big deal. And so I work with the National Association for Education of Young Children, and we are working on that with policy everywhere we can. We yell at the top of our voices that all children, and I was just in a presentation, each and every child deserves the opportunity for school. Each and every child, you all need to get that in your language, so when you get the call and you're at work, each and every child has the opportunity for school. So that's all I have for the dismal part. But I had to set the groundwork, yes?
I was just curious, like, what some of the range of reasons are
Okay.
for that. Some little kids, you know, as a counselor, like some little kids, they just are falling apart and they're not emotionally able to handle certain things. So, you know, so I just wondered how that all fits in.
So most of the rationale is behavior. And the reason for boys, so I can come again next year and talk about gender differences for kids and developmentally because it's really fun. But little boys, so if anybody have or mommies and daddies of little boys, So what you will observe, and I have a grandson now. My son was Mr. Bouncy, and now I have Mr. Bouncy's baby. But little boys, when they're developing, their large motor skills are first. And it's like they realize one day, oh, my legs are working. Look, did you see how my legs are moving? I'm going to go run over here and hop over here. And so, they do that, and it's a natural part of development. But what does school want our children to do? Come to the classroom. So if you're between 2 and 5, and you ask a little boy to sit down, the scary thing, circle time, that's another scary topic. Circle time for an hour, what do you think is going to happen? He cannot manage his behavior, and it's not the child. It is the developmental construct. They want to move. They need to wiggle. Now, little girls, this is so interesting. And remember, so I'm going to talk about this. You guys have got me ahead, and I get excited. But little girls, fine motor development manifests first. So my granddaughter, who is 2 years old, is already holding a pencil, already using a marker. My grandson can't hold it, but he can kick really far. But so teachers don't have a clear understanding of the developmental continuum and when it happens, and there are gender differences. So we know development, this is part I'm going to talk about, this development is going to happen. Everybody's going to crawl until they walk, right? They're going to cry until they talk. These things are going to happen, but the sequence is different, right? And there are gender differences. And it's really cool when you observe children. So for this part, what I'd love to, because we're talking about assets, for you to think about what does your baby do really well. And we have this handout here. And you can use this for thinking, and I'm going to walk around, or if you feel comfortable, we can shout it out. But what are some of the things your children do really, really well? And this is so you're not going to think about they didn't brush their teeth today. And you're not going to think about that they poured the whole gallon of milk to make one bowl of cereal. What does your child do extremely well? And often parents are like, but I want you to put that at the top of your mind and the tip of your tongue so you can speak what your child does well before anything else. So everyone needs support. I need support. But think about what can you say, what does your child do well? So on that first day of school, regardless of what grade, and you meet that new teacher, and you say, hi, this is Bridgitt, and she's magnificent. She is magnificent in every way. You can know why. She loves color, she likes fabric, and she talks all the time. And so I know that she's going to make great friends in this classroom. Do you guys hear how I'm framing it differently? Instead of saying, you know what, so we've been working on this, and like the other teacher told me she talked all the time, and I had to come and sit with her, and that, I think that was expulsion, not quite sure. But, so think about the positive ways you talk about your child. What do your children do well? I want everybody to come up with something. So take 5 minutes or so, and then what does your child bring? What brings your child joy? What makes them happy? You know, when you look at your child and they're doing something. My grandson right now, we have some of those giant magnetic blocks. When he walks into my house, he's like, yes. And he can, that's the only thing. I have toys all over the place. But he's like, yes. It brings him joy to make things, to construct things. What brings your child joy? So take a minute and think about that. You'll take about 5 minutes to think on your own, and then we'll share. Yes. Of course.
I love hugs.
I love hugs too.
And by the way, a girl that talks a lot, I'm a girl and I talk a lot.
Girl, you have a bright future ahead of you. You have a bright future.
I talk a lot.
I can tell, and I think we should exchange numbers because we could have conversations. Yes. Anybody need more time? Okay, if you've done it individually, why don't you talk a little bit, share at your table for a few minutes, and then I'll give a few, we can have some time to do a few shout outs. What does your child do well, and what brings them joy? I was traveling last week. One of my friends gave me this funny pencil, and I have a red one, but I wanted you to have my blue one.
Oh, thank you. And I'm making this picture for you. It's a good idea.
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope you enjoy it. And this is like an eraser, so I use my red one all the time. And so now I'll know my blue one has a good home.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's like it's a pen. Yes, you can use them.
It's so cute.
I know, that's what I think. I love mine, and I use mine all the time, and my friend gave me the blue one. I'm like, oh, it's a blue one.
Got a tie.
Yeah, it's like a tie. I know, it's like a little
I
purse.
have a question. Do you know what the door thing is? The mystery door thing?
No, I don't. They didn't tell me that.
Oh, if we win it, I want to give it to her, please.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah,
You're so sweet. Well, enjoy the little pencil. You're welcome. Okay, so did we come up with a lot of amazing, incredible things about our children? Who would like to share some? Yes.
My kid is pretty good at making friends.
Making friends? I love that. I mean, I think that is, my son is very compassionate, and I remember in school, because he's a boy, that, again, I could come here and talk about all the gender things that happen to kids at school. They were like, oh, no, boys need to be tough. I'm like, no, we need compassionate, amazing leaders. No, I want, let my baby love people. I love that. Making friends, peer relationships, that's really important. We're going to talk about that social development. Any others?
I put my granddaughter, she just doesn't quit.
Oh, tenacity. Her granddaughter does not quit. Goes on and on. She must know my grandson. My little grandson is just turned 4, and when I see him, I'm like, okay. Because he's like, Gigi, 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 Gigi. And I'm like, can we clone Gigi? So just a lot of energy. Anybody else? Yes.
She's fearless and questions everything.
Don't you love that? Fearless. Questions everything. I love that. Somebody else, everybody should be like, I shouldn't even be able to hear myself think. It should be so many great things.
My eldest is very creative.
Creative. Are you hearing all of these wonderful things we're hearing about children? Somebody else, somebody else. There's more. Yes. Problem solving.
He's very empathetic.
Empathetic. Now, aren't these all amazing, like, skills? And what is the age? Can I just do a poll? Who has preschoolers? Grade schoolers? High schoolers? Okay. And I always say, like, high school and preschool, it's the same thing, right? So it's the same. And one of my colleagues just wrote a book. Ellen Galinsky just wrote a book about the connection between those two, adolescents and preschool, very similar. And that's why we, parents struggle so much. Some of the same things. Toilet learning was easy, but driving a car is like, ooh, Yes.
I'm raising my granddaughter now, but I raised 6 girls, and I would tell people when they were all teenagers, I said, no, I need a babysitter.
Yes.
I need a babysitter more now than I did when they were.
There is. So Ellen Galinsky just wrote a book, so you can look it up, and she wrote, her whole new book is about how high schoolers are like preschoolers. It is really true. Okay, so all of those great things, so why do I want you to have those at the top of mind? So when you are hearing conversations about your child, I want you to be able to present those things to teachers. This is really important. You frame the relationship with the teacher and the teacher's relationship with your child. So when, can you all imagine me going into school? My daughter-in-law is like, anytime I have trouble, I'm going to tell them who their Gigi is and have Gigi come to school. And I think, no, I'm going to go as grandma. I'm just going to go. I'm not going to come, no degrees, just, but it's like, how do you talk about children? How do you elevate their talents? And so I want you to be able to do that about your child. If your child is 2 or 18, you need to be able to articulate that for your child, because no one else will do that for you. Right? You want to join in on the good conversation, but you start that conversation. So now let's talk about child development. So it's important to think about the whole child. You all stole my presentation talking about development earlier. But what I heard social development, emotional, that empathy development. Then there's physical development and cognitive development. It is important for us to think about our child as a whole. School talks about our children in which area of development? Anybody can guess? Cognitive. Isn't that interesting? Anybody do basic math? It's 4 things that we got to think about. Why are we focusing on one? That's like 25% of the baby. Does anybody ever think of that? Just shake your head like, wait a minute, they're only talking about 25% of my child? All reports, report cards, everything is about cognitive development, about rationalizing, reasoning, and problem solving. Those things are important, but didn't we just talk about the whole child? So if you gave birth to Mr. Bouncy like I did, and you're only talking about colors, then he's never going to be performing well in school. Because he is bouncing. His physical development is the priority right now. And so the teacher needs to recognize that and create a learning environment where he can meet his needs. Isn't that a novel idea? Like, whoa, the teachers do that? And so this is what can empower you. So the learning environment should support all elements of development. Every element. So if your child, and these are real stories, I'm just saying I wasn't the perfect mom. So if you're getting reports that your child is karate chopping in the air and kicking down displays and doing, then one thing that you could say is like, wow, sounds like he really is interested in going outside. How many opportunities do we play outside? Oh, do you guys have a soccer ball? How many times does he have the opportunity to kick? Kicking is important to his body right now. It's not a bad thing. His body is ready for that area of development. So for cognitive development, we say language, literacy, and that is the reading. And I love that you said we read to our children. So everyone should read to their baby every day. And I could be a PSA on that. The value of it. So we know that children with a richer vocabulary, when they start school, have a better academic trajectory. So hopefully, and I don't care what you're reading. I was working with a family and like, well, I really don't buy books. Read everything. Read signs. Say words out loud. Words, words, words. And narrate everything you're doing. Does everybody know what that is? Narrate your walk. So when my grandson is there, I'm like, okay, Gigi's walking down the hall now. She's going up 5 steps. 1, 2. I'm saying this out loud. I know I look ridiculous, but I'm giving the language of everything that's in the environment. So, we have 8 oranges to wash. Can you wash 1 orange? Oh, it looks like you washed 1. Oh, 2 oranges have bumps. Let me count the bumps. I'm saying everything out loud. Do that for your children. It sounds so ridiculous because as humans, we're like, I'm not doing all that. Somebody might have the camera on. My husband has like the camera stuff. He puts it on to watch the dog. I'm like, ooh, who is it watching, me or the dog? Okay, so, but give your children language every time you can, especially for 0 to 5 years old. Their brain is sucking it all up. And so going back to that problem solving, those strategies we have, so when you are frustrated, give your child the language of frustration. Instead of saying, I got to make spaghetti. I got to say, Gigi had a rough day today. She had a rough day, and now the next part of my day is making dinner. I'm going to have a difficult time doing that because my mind is just not there. So we might have spaghetti with just cheese and no sauce because I can't open the sauce and I don't have the energy to ask somebody to help me. But say all of those things out loud. Why? Because that's that emotional development. We're gifting our children the emotional component. We are emotional beings. So even though you're more refined and you're cool because you're a grown-up, don't you still get mad? Raise your hand if you done got mad in the last week. Last week, have you been mad about anything? About anything. So I get mad when I can't open up a bag of chips or something. I'm like, what? Who made this? What is this, super glue? I quit. Right? So think of that. Think of, we all have those expressions. They can be for the smallest thing. Those are natural emotions. We're human beings. So how many people have been happy in the last week? Like overjoyed, like you know your song, come on, you're like, that's my jam, I got this, yes. We all do that, we're human. That's part of that expression. So how many of us get sad? Been sad in the last week? I know I get sad. Every now and then I'm like, oh man. I think about things in the past that I can't reconcile. I'm like, oh man, I'm a little gloomy right now. Those are normal emotions. We're human beings. We're bigger, but we're human beings. Children are going through those same things, and we want to get them labeled so they're able to articulate how they're feeling. And so when the teacher is saying, you are continuing to kick Johnny's blocks down, you can say, your child can say, actually, I'm frustrated. Isn't that powerful? And I have observed preschool classrooms where children have done so. I was in a preschool classroom, a child made this paper thingy bob. I don't know what it was. It doesn't matter. When a children present something to you, you engage. And so he brought this thing to me, and the way he was carrying it, it's just like, he's like, and he gifted it to me, like, here you go. And I said, oh, this is delicate. He didn't have that word before. This is delicate. The next teacher, who does not have an awareness, walks in and says, let me see that. And he said, oh no, it's delicate. That quick, you see the power of that? That quick, that was like a 5-minute exchange. This baby grabbed that word and integrated in his repertoire. That's the power of articulating everything around us, all of our feelings, everything, because they are going to do what we do. And then critical thinking, they are able to problem solve. And when you look at little children, now everybody's going to go home, stop what you're doing, turn your TV off, throw your iPad in the trash. I know, because I can't do that. But get off of YouTube and just watch your children solve problems the way they think through, and they don't do it the way we do. Isn't that powerful? They don't do things the way we do. I'm so happy the rest of the world can figure out another way other than my way. They figure it out a different way. My granddaughter, 2 years old, goes in the pantry, and I have the dog food at the bottom, and I have all the baby snacks, because now I got a crew. I have all my baby snacks at the bottom shelf, and then at the top shelf are my snacks. She goes in there, she looks at the dog. The dog's name is Yoshi, but she calls him Achi. She said, come here, Achi. Come here. Come here, Achi. This is so good. She goes there, and I have one of those big things with the lock on it for the dog snack. I don't know why. The dog doesn't have thumbs. He can't get in it. But anyway, so she goes there, and she looks at it. She looks at it. She pulls it out. She sits on the floor. She looks at this thing of treats, and it's clear so you can see the treats. She turns it upside down, and then it rolls, so then she rolls it for a minute, and then she sits it back up, and she goes to get a real cookie, because she can reach that, and says, here, Achi. Critical thinking. I can't get into this thing. I'm going to give Achi a treat, and I'm going to figure out a way. Isn't that cool? 2 years old to figure that out, the processing. And if you guys aren't getting goosebumps, it gives you goosebumps to see this stuff. I want to hear like the narrative going on in the mind when you cannot get the treat out of the jar. So observe children, how they solve problems. Then again, just reiterating, critical skills are linked to, critical thinking is linked to problem solving. Don't solve your children's problems for them. Okay, is that hard to think? And so I need everybody to say that out loud. I will not solve my child's problems. I know we need to have a group every week and say this out loud. But it is so easy to do. It's so easy when they can't get the toothpaste top off. Here, give it to me. There you go. It is so easy to do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. This is when the good stuff happens. This is when they are able to cure cancer, because we didn't. I promise you, it sounds like a big leap. But if your child can think through the basic problems, they can solve big problems in the future. So don't do it. Don't solve their problems. So my grandson, I have a million child stories. Or grandson, I buy these. I'm smart, so I go to Amazon. I put that preface. I'm smart. I'm Gigi's smart, and she knows child development. So I buy these rubber toys, like rubber duckies, but now they have mold-free rubber duckies or whatever. And so you fill them up with water and you squirt them and all that. And so the first day, I was so excited because one was an owl and one was a bell and one was a cat. And one was a dog, and so I was like, oh, he's going to know all these shapes, all these things. And so he fills it up with water, and he squirts it, and the owl has one hole. So what happens when you squirt, everybody who knows physics, and it has one hole? A lot of pressure behind that squeeze. So it goes everywhere. But guess where the everywhere was? Between Gigi's eyes. But see, that's how smart Gigi is. She bought this mess, right? And so, but the interesting thing on the problem solving, first he looked things like, oh, and I was like, because I know what to say to children, I'm like, wow, that was unexpected. That was really unexpected. And so then he looked at it and he giggled, and it was a belly giggle and he was crying, but when he got himself together, he picked up the others and he looked at the holes. This gives me goosebumps. He looked at the holes on each of the little critters, and then he practiced squeezing against the wall. What was he learning? Anybody got goosebumps? This is a baby in the bathtub with stuff Gigi bought. And he is critically thinking about what the capacity of those objects are. And thinking about how can I squirt and not squirt Gigi. That's what I'm hoping. That's what my narrative would be. But he was really thinking like, wow, what else will happen? I see these holes are different now. What else can happen? So just, know that children are problem solving. And I want to go back to this. This is really important. While this is how we define academic success, these areas are really important, and we have to pay a lot of attention to cognitive development, but much of it will happen in the environment if the environment is well supported. Meaning that you're walking around saying everything you're going to do, I'm breathing now, and so children can know exactly and learn about the nuances of their environment. Then physical. And so those are those large motor muscles. That's when they are running. So some of you who have had children, do you remember when they were crawling? You're like, you telling everybody, calling everybody, oh, they're crawling. Look, they're on their belly and their feet are up. Oh, and then one day they're running. Anybody remember that? Like, holy moly. Is my house childproof? It's over. When they run, it's over. It is done, right? And so, but that large motor capacity to be able to move the large muscles of the body, and that gender difference, when little boys realize they can move, I just hear the narrative like, wow, did you see what my legs could do? Did you see? I'm going to do that again. And so then fine motor, and that little girl's first in development, the fingers, the muscles in the fingers. And so what we'll see in classrooms are worksheets. How many people have had piles of worksheets? Okay, good. Whatever school, I want to know the names of school, not giving worksheets. But worksheets are the polar opposite. That's what we don't want to happen to reinforce fine motor. So worksheets are when you're tracing your name, and parents call it homework. 0 to 5, you don't need homework. So parents say, look how beautiful Bridgitt made this bee. So what happened when Bridgitt was making the bee? So first, it was a challenge because Bridgitt needed to make a bee. An adult showed me how to make a bee. What happened the second time? Was there any opportunity for critical thinking, problem solving? Oh, you really, girl? Thank you, girl. But think about what it is. So rote memorization has a place, but it is not the primary goal. And then sensory, children's ability to touch and feel things. So how many people have children that just all over everything? You're like, gosh, like they're like octopus. They just got to touch everything. Anybody? Nobody's given birth to one of those? I did. Everything. So like, I have a really cute story. My brother's granddaughter, Charlie. Everybody know what Vaseline is, right? After her mom gives her a bath every day, she puts a little Vaseline on her, makes her little shiny cheeks and cute. And so one day, Mom was Kyra, my niece, was making oatmeal, and she said, "Charlie, oatmeal ready?" And I should put the picture in the slide because that'd be done. She'd take the show. Charlie comes down the steps. Her body is covered like a whole one of those whatever big things of Vaseline. That's sensory. I mean, it's on her hair, and she's so pretty and shiny, and it's on her hands, her arms, and somehow she's just in her underwear, so it's everywhere. And her mom, who is brilliant, that's my niece, she says, "Charlie, what were you doing?" She said, "It's okay, Mommy, I was putting Vaseline on." And her mom said, "Okay, but before we eat our oatmeal, I think we need to take a bath." And then after the bath, Charlie says, "I'm sorry, Mommy, there's no more Vaseline." But that sensory, the touch, right? So can you imagine her exploring this Vaseline like, ooh. I mean, I just think ought to be a kid again. We touch things every day and they have no effect on us. But a child, she was exploring, putting it on her body, squeezing it. And then large motor is the least supported in school. There's no recess. Going back to the expulsion, children are prohibited from doing recess because they were too active in the classroom. Anybody heard that? No, anybody? Well, today we couldn't get through reading. So he had to miss recess. And nobody's heard this? And so the logic is, he was moving, right? And he wanted to move, right? And you stopped him from moving? Is everybody connecting the dots to how illogical it is? It's the wrong response to the behavior. So if a child needs to move, they need to move. And so we see recess eliminated. We see children put in timeout before large motor activities because they've already been doing flips and flops in the classroom. And we see teachers totally eliminated in lieu of worksheets because those are better, right? But what are children learning? And now I need you guys to talk. What are they learning when they're outdoors? Problem solve. What else?
When you fall down.
Yep. Cause and effect. When you fall, you get back up. What else are they? Resilience. Yes.
So if they're sitting in the classroom, they're not talking. When they're outside, they're engaging.
Peer relationships. Yes.
Like team sports and things like that.
Leadership. That team sports piece. That leadership. You do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back over here, and you keep doing your that while I do my this. Right? That's some good stuff. We can't write that up. We can't replicate that. When you see children really immersed in play, it knocks your socks off. So think about those experiences when you get the reports from school or when you go to school for the first time to say, you know what, my child really enjoys outside time. And in fact, I observed his leadership or her leadership skills. I observe her capacity to critical think when she's outside or he's outside. And then social development, and this is really important, the adult-child relationships. And I know I'm saying everything is important, everything about development is important. But one of the defining factors in a classroom is who is the teacher. So you guys have had enough experience that some teachers you wish they could be part of your family. They're so amazing. They're like, "Oh, how's grandma doing? Oh, you got a new puppy? Oh my goodness." And they're just they're warm, they're genuine, they're intentional. They'll flip the world upside down for the kids because they don't care. It's all about the kids. And then you get those teachers who are like, "This is the one way or the highway." And your baby don't know the map to this highway. So it's not working. Nobody's heard that? So those relationships are really important. And the preschool relationships, when there is a negative adult interaction, we know that it has a negative outcome in high school. Isn't that powerful? If there is a negative interaction in preschool, children have it has a negative effect on their outcomes in high school. So they hate school. another layman word to say it. You hear the little kids, I hate school. Why? But just know that those adult-child relationships are really important. So how are teachers, when children walk in a classroom, I observed last week I was on a trip, site visit in Atlanta, and they have this beautiful program that the classroom is set up and parents can bring their children with and be with their children. The teachers' emotions when they walked in was so beautiful. She's like, oh, you're here! It was the most positive. I felt like I'm going to live in this space forever. Everyone was hugging. Grandparents were coming. But it's so much learning was happening in that classroom. It was powerful. But it was the frame of the teacher. She said, this is a welcoming space. It doesn't matter what's going to happen in there. This space is yours. It's all about you. And it could be really powerful for your child. And then those peer-to-peer relationships. Do your children have time to have friends? I observed a third grade classroom, and I was so exhausted by the instructions of the third grade classroom that I didn't know what to do. I was overstimulated. The teacher said, today, we're going to do our history lesson. Everybody remember we're going to do our history lesson? Yeah. So go to your room, to your area and get your stuff for your history lesson. Okay. And they sat down. Okay, now everybody put your stat away because now we're going to stand over here and we're going to do our writing. Okay. And then it was so overwhelming for me, I had to walk out of the space. So it's really important for children to be able to have space to talk. And many teachers report to us, right? They say, I know for me, I remember I was Chatty Cathy. My mama got that report every day. Well, Bridget's really smart, but she's still talking. She's still talking. But they need that peer-to-peer relationship, and this is a key indicator for academic success. Isn't that cool? Those relationships, key indicator for academic success. And then emotional. So we already talked about labeling emotions. I did it. Okay, problem solving in front of the world. I'm 2 years old at heart. So, but this other important aspect is self-regulation. So what is self-regulation? Calm yourself down. Express your emotions without being overcome. What?
If you're feeling sad, you can ask someone, you can tell someone that you're feeling sad and ask if they can give you a hug.
Okay, that's beautiful. And I'm keeping her. Okay, so look, kindred spirits. Okay, that was so good. Thank you. So self-regulation is that ability to calm yourself down, the ability to be present in the space regardless of the stimuli in the environment. And so how do we know when self-regulation isn't occurring? If you go to school with a teacher, what are teachers telling you when your kids are unable, when it's not occurring? Tantrums. What are some of the strategies that may happen in classrooms because of self-regulation?
Sometimes they tend to announce before they change activities sometimes.
That's the transition. That's what every classroom needs, those transitions. But what else? Have you guys heard of timeout? Self-regulation, timeout, they're best friends. Because that's what teachers do for children to be able to self-regulate. Because and so you hear, she was in timeout today, or he was in timeout today. And so know that that's an indicator of self-regulation, and self-regulation means that the child is unable to focus on whatever that situation is. Now, for those children that are going back to physical development, like my son, Mr. Bouncy, probably recess, you do not need timeout because he's in his heaven. He's just like, woo! woo, that my teacher is brilliant. She gave us outdoors. I can run and jump and play. And some children can hold a long attention span with writing and artwork. And you'll see that. And so, but self-regulation is the ability for a child, for a child to be able to manage the activity. So what is the language of child development? So we need the language of child development so that you can be advocates for your children. And I'm going to say this out loud, and it is the truth. I mean, I know we talk about special needs. Every person has a special need. That means every person interacts with the environment in a different way. Does everybody know that? And so I want you to think about you. So if you can't put it to you, for example, for myself, I don't do well and really like when there's a lot of stimuli. When there's a lot of background sounds, I can't focus. I'm like, what did you say? I don't know, I can't think. I hurt, so in a mall or in a parking lot, then I lose my focus. I'm unable to become grounded. Think of you, so that everyone has, what is your thing? You don't have to shout it out, but think of your thing when you're just like a little bit off, right? And it's just because something's happening in the environment. And that's totally natural. We're humans, and we're all different humans. Remember Bronfenbrenner at the beginning? We're different. We came from different places. We have different experiences, and we have different temperament, and that is okay. So we can be advocates for our children regardless of their need. Regardless of their need. Understand that all of us, each of us have a need. We may have found a coping strategy for the need, and as adulthood, you don't know your needs anymore because you do figure out how to cope. For example, for me, like studying, I love school, but I needed a lot of support. I have so many coping strategies to be able to get through school. I have 4 degrees. I mastered it. I know I have created my own internal cheat sheet on how to find success. Each of you have done that for something in your life. Each of you have done that for something in your life. And then for the language of child development, we can use it to talk about what your children can do. And this is important. So if you don't hear anything else, if you walk away and say, I don't know what that lady was talking about, say, just know that you're going to be thinking about what your children can do. That is so important. And then reframe how others speak about your child's assets. And we have talked about that, but I want you all to really think about when you get a report. So if I were to say, good morning, I'm so glad to see you, and actually I'd love to talk to you. And so like Bridgitt, yeah, she's not focused. So she was in timeout yesterday, but yeah, I don't know what's going to happen today, but I'll give her another opportunity to sit over there until she can figure it out. What would you say? What would be your first question?
Why is she in timeout?
Why what? Why was she what? No, that's one question. That puts it on the child. What could you say? What is happening in the environment that could cause that behavior? That's the classroom. Teacher's responsible for that. What is happening in the environment that caused that behavior? That's shocking. I can't imagine Bridgitt talking. What? No, not my baby. Think of that. So it's a different way, right? Because sometimes we look at the child and say, why is the child not fitting in the environment? But what if we ask, why doesn't the environment fit the child? Isn't that a more powerful way? And we hear kindergarten readiness. How many of you hear that? Kindergarten readiness. Why aren't schools ready for kindergartners? That's when it gets good, when you start thinking like that. You see how your advocacy can come? And so when the teacher says, well, I think because Bridgitt's sitting next to another child that really loves to talk, that's an environmental factor. Wow, so what can the teacher do to support a different behavior in the classroom? So now I'm going to allow you to practice, but you're only going to practice on the behavior, the area of development, and then the reframe. And so on your handout at the bottom, you have some behaviors, and they're fun behaviors. The first is running through the house. I love that one because my mom my whole life would say, I know you kids are not running in my house as we're running. Nuh-uh. No, we're not running, we're walking. But then, so what area of development is that? That would be physical development, large motor skills. And then reframing, so how could you reframe? The child is using large motor skills, so he needs more opportunity to move. And you don't have to, word it in that way, but think about what does the child need in each of these cases. So just the reframe for these areas, and you can work together as a table. So think really carefully. Think hard about what you can do, and any idea is okay, and unique strategies are welcome. Yes. Oh, look at that. You did that by yourself. Nuh-uh. That was good. It's good to see you. These kids are amazing. The little girl over there who came up, she said, I'm giving you a hug because I talk a lot just like you. I love it. How's your day?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, I was training in Denver, so yeah, it was good though.
I feel like I need a vacation. It's like every day is like boom, 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 boom. You look at your week, you're like, okay.
How was your day?
It was good. It was just a long work day. Yeah. So we're working on stuff that requires a lot of thinking, and I'm the primary thinker. That's when you're exhausted. People just don't understand. You're like, wait a minute, I'm thinking every little piece for everybody. It'll be better, but it's like, oh my gosh.
I'm tired. 2 days. High impact presentations. So it's a lot of mental conversations. Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm in Tampa next week, the week of the 15th, and nonstop training, and I want to cry already. I'm like, oh. And everybody's like, it's so pretty. I'm like, okay, I'll be sleepy at the end of the day.
Thanks for doing this.
Sign me up every year. Work of the heart. Am I talking loud enough?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is my doodad still on?
It should be. Yep, it is.
Okay. Okay, once you have your ideas, share with your table. And remember, you're not doing the play-based activity. You're not doing the play-based activity. You're just going up. We're going to talk about that next. So brilliant minds have already gone there. Brilliant minds have already gone there, but you don't need to do the play-based component. I know. I mean, like, girl.
I love
Did you have fun at school today?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love all the colors you have. That's a lot.
Tomorrow, it's my performance day, and I'm in first grade. I feel like I'm doing
What are you going to perform on?
a stage with my class. We're gonna do fans and umbrellas. Can I tell you what me and Yashua are gonna do?
Yes.
Yashua is gonna do in Chinese, but I'm doing English. The Chinese started making blue and white person about 1,000 years ago. The best time to make it is when it rains in spring. Please welcome the first grade Chinese class representing the beauty of blue and white person.
Oh.
Cell and porcelain. We're working on the pronunciation.
Porcelain.
But yeah, she's in Mandarin. She does Mandarin better. She does English.
Oh. Well,
I
that.
can say thank you for having us.
For having us.
Well, I'm going to say that I love your confidence and you are amazing.
She's gonna be an ambassador or CEO. I know it.
Yes, yes. Like my little granddaughter is so confident in the world, and she's only 2. I'm like, she's gonna rule something. I mean, it's like you can see like how they see the world is so different. It's not like, and I can tell. And she's real chill, but she's like insistent. You know, she's like, I'm going to do this. And yeah, and for me, it's like, you know, I hope she can keep that, and that it's nurtured her whole life.
Good job, baby. Great job. Thank you. She really wants me to give you her phone number. If we're done.
Oh, you.
It's the elephant.
Guess you're not going to believe this. Elephants are my favorite animal.
Not the front door.
Oh,
My favorite animal. They are my favorite. So in my house, I
love
love.
elephants too. I have them everywhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they're so gentle. They're huge, but they're so soft.
That's me. I'm 5'11". That's
Yes.
what
Yes.
y'all both like elephant. Oh my god. Elephant, and I'm jellyfish.
Oh.
This would be perfect.
You have to sign your name on there. So
Okay, I'll put my
Do it
name
with
with
your.
this.
Oh, you want to do blue?
I can't believe that you given me an elephant. That's serendipitous.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
I'm gonna get you a card. Like it says, you are amazing, but there's my card.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you spell your name?
Bridgitt. Bridgitt.
Look, it fits perfectly. Dawn, Bridgitt, the Bobby.
I love that.
I'm the jellyfish, and you two are the elephant.
I
This is your
love
side
it.
and this is her side.
I'm gonna keep that forever. I keep things. I have a beautiful collection of beautiful gifts.
Is this your phone number?
Ye-
This is your phone number?
Yeah, she
The
says
bottom
that
one. The bottom one is my phone number.
You're her new
Mommy,
best
that's her
friend.
phone number.
The bottom one is the top one is my home number. I'm never home, but the bottom one is my phone number. Now, I travel for work. Yeah.
Where are you based out of?
So the organization is DC, but I live here. I travel everywhere. I just came back from Atlanta. I'm going to Tampa. I go every year.
I graduated from St. P. College.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm Floridian. She's a native. She gets to be the native here.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love your presentation. I love your energy.
Oh,
So
thank
so
you.
much.
Well, one more hug. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna remember you. I'm gonna remember you forever.
I hope you and Tay can give it to me.
You're so
I still remember it. I don't forget things I get.
No.
That's because you talk a lot like me. I don't forget anything, and I don't forget people. We
I sometimes forget some people because there's a lot of people in my class. A lot.
But not special ones.
well, there's people that I build relationship with, and my heart connects with them. I never forget them.
Yeah, like Miss Green. I had her as a kindergarten teacher, and I still don't.
Yeah, she went to her 7th birthday party. She came to the, she had to invite her.
You're welcome. Okay. So, who would like to share? Who would like to share? Let's try the first one. Writing on the wall. The way that you can do writing on the wall is get the markers that don't write on anything. My granddaughter, we bought her markers and with all the tops and the colors, and she was excited. And her little table, I had the paper out. She looked at it and went to my wall. And I'm like, aha, they don't work. They don't work on the wall. So writing on the wall, what would you do? What area of development?
Put it down as cognitive, because it's an exploration of how writing works and how markers work, how crayons work, and how they work on different surfaces. So I had it down as cognitive.
Yes, it could be cognitive. Anybody else? What did anybody else say? It should be, fine motor, right? Yeah, small. We say small or fine. I just say fine because I've been trained that way. But yes, it could be fine motor or small motor, using the fingers. That is another area of development. Any others? I love that, emotional. So I worked on Fort Carson as a trainer, and Fort Carson is interesting place. So one little guy lost his dad, and I was sitting there, and he drew this picture. And this was impromptu. I didn't know that I would be the person with him. And he drew all of his little family and and his house. And he said, "You draw your family." And so I started drawing. I can't draw, so I'm like, okay, my little stick people, my stick dog, and my stick cat, and everything. And so we were talking about the family, and he was talking about, everybody's family has love. And that came out of just drawing. He's like, everybody has family that loves, and we need to love everybody. This is how this child expressed that. That came out. Pay attention to kids. They will teach you some of the most profound things ever. Pay attention to children. Okay, any others? Writing on the wall. Did anybody, did the mama or the daddy come out of anybody when they were looking at these? Like, ooh. Did the mama, no mamas and daddies in here that came out like, I know we just bought a new house. I know I better not see any crayons on the wall. Okay, so what about tantrums? Oh, I'm sorry, how would you reframe it? How would you reframe the physical development the cognitive development, writing on the wall? Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, my little granddaughter, I'm like, oh, Gigi brought this whole pack of paper. Let's try this paper. It looks like you want to make a picture, right? So you can reframe in that way, in a positive way, so children aren't like being reprimanded for doing developmentally appropriate activities, right? To say, wow, you need, have your mystery eraser just in case, but you can do reinforce in a really positive way. Okay, what about tantrums? What area of development? Emotional. And how would you reframe that? But how would you reframe for what a child would do? From the child's perspective, you would have the child. What would you have the child do? How would you say it? Yes, you might describe the feelings, right? You might say, oh, this made you really sad. My grandson right now, and really little kids know emotions, really the whole nonverbal thing. When he gets mad and he says, play nice, Gigi. And I'm like, we need to work on that. I need to reframe that, right? But he's articulating, I am frustrated. That was enough. And you were the cause of it. Right? Because you couldn't have an extra cookie. Or we only were going to eat one orange, okay? But think of opportunities how you can reframe that. And so actually we sit in my living room chair and I talk about it. I'm like, so tell me all about what Gigi did. Just tell me. And he's like, I want a cookie. You wanted cookies? So we just go through that conversation. But it's almost dinner time. Don't you want a cheeseburger? Mm-hmm. Can we have that first? No. I want a cookie. So what way could we have dinner and you get a cookie? You used to guys see that? And I'm talking to a 4-year-old solving that problem. Okay, stacks objects. Area of development. It could be large motor. Stacking objects. It could be cognitive. Stacking objects. Could be fine motor too. I didn't tell you how big the objects, right? The objects could be small. And so how would you reframe it? What would you, or a better question, what would you do to support that? What could you do? What could you do? What could you do at home to support it? Yes? Build it with them. Join in on the play. Give them a goal. Any others?
Give them stuff too.
Make a design, pattern.
Provide a variety of objects.
A variety of objects. I'm Montessori, and so Montessorians, we trust kids with everything. We trust children. I mean, we really trust children. We trust children with everything. So what I have done is my bottom cabinets are all childproof. We can build, we can stack pots. We can do everything is child-proof because we trust children. They have access to it, and children. So find things, identify, define the play for the child. And so some of you are like, ooh, I'm so happy I'm not at your house when those babies come. My house is literally a fantastic exploration place. My husband's like, this place is a mess. I'm like, we are having so much fun exploring. Okay, pours juice on the floor. Area of development. Sensory. You have one? What? You have nothing. You went into daddy mode. You were like, Pours juice on the floor. It could be physical, pouring, right? Any others? Could be cognitive, cause and effect. Right? They're thinking through. So this is a true story. My son was little, and I was cooking, and I never have time. So everything is so just organized for me. So I'm like, this is my window for dinner. We're having spaghetti. Now, we're really having spaghetti. I used the spaghetti analogy before. I have no idea why. We were really having spaghetti. So I'm like, I go in the house. I turn on the stove. You know, you got to get your water. You get your water boiling. I get the spaghetti. I get all of the stuff out. And you know those Tupperware thingy-bobbies that you put your, spaghetti in so you can get one portion? My thingy-bobby wasn't on right. So I poured the spaghetti, and it went all over the floor. My son was 6 years old, and he said, Mommy, can we skate on Getty? So remember, my son rollerbladed everywhere. I had never thought about skating on Getty. And I said, I don't know. Let's try. So in our sock feet, my son is 30. He still remembers this. We skated in my kitchen on spaghetti. It is so fun, I'm saying. It was so fun. And we had peanut butter and jelly for dinner. But it was like in the moment. And my son's like, Mama, remember we used to skating on spaghetti? That was so crazy. You were just such a crazy mom. And I love the warmth when he tells that story because something else was happening. Adult-child relationship, right? The trust, that was happening. And so everybody may not be as brave, but you can skate on Getty. Okay, so kicking. Kicking. Physical. And so what could you do when you see kicking? Reframe it. Yep, get a soccer ball. Get something to kick. Satisfy the child's need for that area of development. Crying. Look, I love, that was a true mother response, cry with them. That was perfect. But what about, for crying, what area of development? Emotional. So what could you do? Validate, acknowledge, and say that, we all cry. Okay, so raise of hand. How many of you cried lately? Okay, don't be shy because this is a human. If you're a human. I cry, right? I cry. It may be a more controlled boo-hoo, but I do have that emotion, and children have that emotion, so acknowledge it. Wow, that was really tough. That was really scary. And then take toys apart. Cognitive. And so how could you reframe it? What could you do? What could you do? They're taking toys apart.
Provide them with toys that are no longer functional, that it's fine, that they disassemble them at will.
The toys that it doesn't matter. And I was looking for all the men because my husband loves things that are taken apart. Like we have constructed train sets and all of that. And they really have joy out of pieces. I don't. So it's like find things that have multiple parts. Maybe build something with your child. They have those Lego kits which are extraordinary. I think you need to have like a PhD in physics to do them. But find toys that children can build. Okay, smear food on the table. I'm looking to see if your daddy's coming out with that. Smear food on the table. Area of development. Sensory. And what could you do? Clay. Actually, clay is one of the most dynamic elements that you can give young children because it can turn into anything. And so it's great for critical thinking. Clay. Any others? Finger painting. You can do any of those. So the child's need to smear. And then needs to play with other children. What? Social. So what can you do? Yes, or look, have a birthday party. That's the most amazing thing that happens in a child's life. Are you coming to my birthday party? I was in one class, and a little girl was like, you're coming to my birthday party? And you're coming to my birthday party? And you're coming to my birthday party? Those social events, bringing your friends together so children have opportunities. So how can part 3, strategies to promote optimal development? So play is the work of the child. And so for all, we talked about worksheets and those other things that really aren't about children. Play is all about children. Play is the work of the child. And so I'm going to share a play experience that I recently had at the pumpkin patch with my grandson. And so many of you probably went to the pumpkin patch in October because you have children. And at the pumpkin patch, there's this giant red tractor. It's pretty magnificent when you're little. When you're like 2, 3, and 4, you're like, whoa, I can't believe the adults don't see how big this thing is. And it doesn't have wheels on it. And my grandson was like, come on, Gigi, let's go. And I'm like, well, the rational side, and the age group was there with pre-K, I would say, to 2nd grade, so you could see the taller children. And so the older children were in the front part where the steering wheel is. That's what I'm going to call of the tractor. And so I was walking up and I'm thinking, okay, I hope he's not disappointed because the big kids are there first. And I don't know how this is going to go. I'm not quite sure, so I go up one step. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope there's no crying, because the big kids are up there, and I do not know what's going to happen. So I'm like, okay, Bridgitt, okay, use all of this stuff that you've been around kids a lot, get all your juices and come up with something. And so we walked to the door, and I said, excuse me, my name is Bridgitt, and this is Jameson, and we would love to ride the tractor with you. And one little boy said, okay, and the baby can sit here. Jameson, on cue, sat down. I would never be able to have him sit here, but he heard this older child say, you sit there. So he sat there. A little girl is on the CB. And he said, and you tell us when things are in the way, and you call on the radio when we need help. She said, okay. And then another little boy was looking out the window, and he said, well, I'm going to tell you when something's in the field. And so they're all assuming their position, and he said, I am going to drive. And I said, well, can you drive? He said, yes. And I said, well, how do you know you can drive? He said, I got experience. And I said, well, what experience do you have? He said, yeah, I ride my bike. I was on my big brother's skateboard. I got experience. Do you see how good that was? Did anybody get goosebumps? Because I'm like, this is some good stuff. This baby can drive me anywhere, because he's transferred those experiences on wheels to this other thing that's bigger than him that should have wheels, and in his brain, he got this. He got this. And so the next thing, the little girl said, oh no, there's a mommy cow and there's baby cows out there. And my grandson, he's a baby to me, he said, yeah, there's 3 cows. All of them together, remember there's a blank field for adults, okay. All of them together say, yes, there's 3 baby cows. 3 baby cows and a mommy cow. We have to get them back together. Anybody else got goosebumps? That all of this stuff, these kids have never met before. This is all happening right now. And the play ended as beautifully as it began. The little girl said, everybody, let's go save the baby cow and take it to his mommy. Now that is play. That is some good stuff. You see this all the time, but we interrupt play. So think about the interruptions. How many of you have interrupted play? Yeah, that's good. Mommy, look what I did. Yeah. But right now I need you to get your tennis shoes on so we can get out the house. And we don't realize this stuff that's happening. And so in that story, you heard everything. You heard critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, playing together, cooperation. They came up with the rules on the spot. No teacher wrote a lesson plan. It happens all the time. So play is the way that we are preparing our children to deal with the big problems of the world. It's organic. It just happens naturally. It is child-initiated and self-directed. Now, had I interrupted and said, no, really, you don't see, baby cows really wouldn't be in a field like that. I've never seen a baby cow in a field. How many adults have done something like that? I've never, the child say, oh, do you see in the sky? Do you see in the sky? There's a big old bubblegum machine in the sky. No. Remember, we were at Grandma's house and bubblegum machines are at the grocery store? Nobody's ever done that, correct the child, because we want to give them the reality instead of go into that dream phase, that beautiful space where they can see the impossible, the incredible, the magnificent, the wonderful, the fantastic. I wish I was a child again to be able to see the world in that way. And then play is process-oriented, not product-oriented. And so we all have received these beautiful gifts from teachers that everybody made the same gift, the same card for Mother's Day. Anybody get that? You go to school and they say, today we all put red lips on a piece of paper. And this is how your baby put red lips. Or you'll hear, we were all putting red lips on the piece of paper. He couldn't think about how lips really went, so I put his lips on his paper for him. Anybody, you haven't heard this stuff? And you think, okay, so thanks, teacher, for making me an art project, right? So it should come from the child. And so when you're shopping and thinking about these opportunities, remember we're talking about preparing our kids to be ready for school. When you are in the store, it does not cost, you don't need the most expensive thing. When my children were little, I took them to the toy store. I just got a new job. I was so proud of myself. And I had in my mind, we need bikes. I'm buying bikes this summer. My nephew was there for a summer. And I go in, I'm like, you boys go in and get anything you want. And I'm sitting there thinking, of course these boys, because I want to get bikes. They're going to roll up here. You know what these babies came with? Balloons. They wanted to have a water balloon fight. I let them loose in a toy store. I could never imagine balloons. They came, they were so happy and giggling, thinking about what they're going to do with the balloons. And it was like $1.79. That was a reality check for me. Wait a minute, Bridgitt, you're making up other people's narrative. These babies know what they want to do. They want to have fun. Your version of fun is an adult version. But that's powerful when you think they said, oh, we got it. We found it. And I look, I'm like, what is balloons? Yeah, when we get home, we're going to have a water balloon fight. They get home, my husband's like, you guys picked the best thing ever. Everybody get ready. So it was this cool experience for very little. So you don't need to spend the maximum amount of money. And I know these holidays prompt us, commercials prompt us, all of these things that we think are the best ways for children to learn. Children learn in a relationship and when it's authentic. So why play all day? It creates meaning of the world. Remember that little boy? He said, I got experience. He knew that wheels, anything on wheels, you ride it. He transferred that. Isn't that powerful? Anybody else? Like, he's 6. And he said, I've been on wheels before. This is nothing, girl. I can do this. So, and it promotes critical thinking. They are able to process through, and they don't get stuck. And so if you ever observe, so I charge you, if you have young children at your house, don't say a thing, just sit back and watch play. Watch play. And you're going to question everything you've ever done in your life. You're going to be like, they know everything. Nobody told, they know everything. They know the secrets of the world. They are solving problems. It's critical thinking. And it promotes persistence. Remember we were talking about self-regulation? So there's a book called The Hurried Child, David Eklund, and he talks about this is our society and how we rush children from one thing to another because somehow in our mind we have that if we have busy children, they're all going to graduate from Harvard and Yale. Actually, we make them really dysfunctional adults. The research says that it is impossible to multitask. Does anybody know that? Impossible to multitask. Yet we push our kids. Come on, you got violin. Don't forget now, as soon as they get violin, you got to put soccer shoes on. You're driving, you're stuffing a Pop-Tart in their mouth. And then when they get home and they're like, Mommy, I'm tired. You got that backpack and you got those worksheets that the teacher gave you, and it just goes on and on and on. And so, but to promote persistence, allow children to pay attention. Montessori and Reggio curriculum, children to have uninterrupted play. Meaning nobody stops it. And some of you are going to say, well, how do you do that? So what about when they're building stuff? Find a place in your home where things can be built and stay. You don't pick it up at night because I am obsessive compulsive and I want my house clean. But when those grandchildren are there for a week, I dare somebody to touch any creation because something's happening over there. Something amazing is happening, something incredible. And if they can wake up the next day and go back to it, that's self-regulation. Right? Think about when you have a project at work. Isn't it sometimes you have to drag yourself to, you're like, tomorrow I have this big project I got to do. But kids know, they're like, this is my priority. Go figure. This is my priority. I'm going to work on this tomorrow. That is persistence. They are able to test new ideas from previous experience. That little guy in the tractor. And so now I know when he tells somebody he got experience, he going to add that tractor. I would love to see him to say, have you ever driven before? Yes. Yes, of course. How big? I can drive it. Okay? I would love to see that. And then enhanced executive functioning skills. And executive functioning skills are those skills for children to think, to process, to make decisions, to test things. And you see some children apprehensive about trying new things. And generally it's because of the environment. And so what do you think is happening in an environment when children are apprehensive about trying new things? Adults have to rate it. Oh, you did that really well. Why don't we? Right? So when I do something, I just want to do it, right? So like when I'm looking at YouTube videos on how to put eyebrows on, which I can't, you can see evidence, I want to mess up. I want to do it myself. I don't want you to, I don't need you to judge it. I can do that. I have this internal thermometer that gauges me like where I am. So don't most of you every day know like how well you do something as adults? If somebody asks you, well, how well do you throw a basketball? You're going to say, yeah, pretty far. I'm not LeBron, but I'm okay, right? You're measuring it yourself. No one else has to tell you. Children do that also. But often the messages that we send children to say, try again, honey, it's not in the lines. What? That prevents children from trying again because they're like, well, mom said it had to be in the lines. There's no other option. Yes?
So how do we balance that with kids who really thrive on affirmation? Like a child who wants to show you their picture and you want to praise that they put all their effort into it, you know, you don't necessarily pick it apart. Well, you should have made the stem of the flower green. You know, if it's purple, you talk about how is that, what's the balance there where we make sure that we're giving them the feedback that they need to feel like they're doing, you know, we empower them to keep going, but not make them completely dependent on other people for the validation.
So it's how you go into the conversation. So when a child shows me something, I'm like, what did you do? What is that? Oh my gosh, what did that take? How did you come up with that? You hear all these open-ended questions? And I'm really interested. Like what that is the affirmation to say, because it's really like this human to human experience, this sharing of, that's the affirmation is really the celebration. And I want acknowledgement from my peers, right, or from my family or from the other people, because the more I do something really well, like new puppies, anybody had a new puppy? That's a whole nother story. But once you reinforce the behavior or not reinforce the behavior, then it could really make a tremendous difference. So when children do something, say, tell me all about that. Take time. This takes time. So when you're looking on your calendar, like, got 5 minutes. And if you don't have time to say, you know what, I really want to hear all about that. I really do. Are we able to talk about that when mommy is done? Let's go with the spaghetti. Done with the spaghetti. And I'll let you know when I'm ready, and I cannot wait to hear all about it. Do you see? So you're going to create that space so that you can share. Yes?
This is kind of on the flip side of her question as well. How do you balance that with, not balance it, but how do you teach humility while also like feeling that giving a child is probably like a bit more on the cockier side. They already think they got it together. So how do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I really like to nurture preschoolers that are cocky, because they're going to rule the world and they're going to make good decisions. So the way that you demonstrate humility is by modeling humility yourself, by saying thank you. I deeply appreciate that. I can't believe you thought of me when you were doing that. And when you give a compliment or join the conversation, thank you for inviting me to this really important conversation about you. And another day to say, hey, I want to share something with you. You see how I'm flipping it back? Hey, I want to share something with you. So we forget children are people, but I do that all the time. Hey, even my son is 30 now, and I do that with him. Hey, what you doing? Let me talk to you about something. Because that's with that connection, but the humility means really that I appreciate others. And my grandmother told me that to be beautiful, you have to see beauty, kind of that thing. And so you want to teach your children that yes, it's great that you have these talents, but you can also recognize the talents of others. Talk to your kids, be in conversation in a real meaningful way. And so well-developed executive functioning skills are an important predictor for later academic and life success. And we don't have time for our activity, but at home, what you can do is think about a play-based activity that you could do. So for example, for writing on the wall, maybe you're going to paint with your feet. I've done that for a class, and it is so fun. And the children, the age of the children, and it was 15 of them, 2 to 3 years old. I'm a crazy teacher, great babysitter. We all painted our feet and we walked around. So I taped brown paper on the floor, and it was more giggles, laughs, hugs. It was so amazing. And so just know that you can do think of really fun out of the box ways. And I know mommies and daddies are like, not in my house. But think about on your front yard. Doesn't have to be in your living room. Think about what you can do. I would do those little wading pools of chocolate pudding. My son, when he was little, the little boys, I'm very fun. I'm very fun. When my son was little, the boys next door came over and they were like, "What you doing?" He said, "I'm getting ready to take a swim in pudding." And they were like, "What?" My son said, "Don't worry. It's okay. She lets you take a bath on the side of the house." You're good. And they didn't believe. They were so afraid of that. And I was like, just jump in there. Jump in there. And then and it was a really fun experience. So the fun that you create and the ways that you solve for these developmental elements are as wild as your imagination. So I want to end with this. Every child needs at least one adult who is irrationally crazy about him or her. So love your babies hard. Love them hard. The world is hard. I don't have to tell you that. You're adults. You know what we do every day. You know what we have to confront every day. Love your babies with every bit of your essence. Tell them how beautiful they are, how capable they are, how competent they are, how valuable they are, how important they are. Tell them every day, every day. Every day. I'm a product, my grandmother, and there's a lot of us cousins, and we would stay in the summer with my grandmother, and she would say, oh, my babies are beautiful. Oh, my babies are beautiful. I don't care where. And if you came over to visit, you became one of the babies. She spoke that beauty to everyone. And she's not looking at physical beauty. She knows the essence of you is beautiful. And to hear that. And when I went to college for the first time, when all of that, everything I knew about the world was tested away from home, I remembered those words. And that's why I stand before you today. And so speak positive things to your children and hug them tight every moment that you get. It matters, and that is what prepares them for school. That is what prepares them for school. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate you. I hope you got a little bit of something out of here. And I know you're going to call me the crazy lady with the pudding and skating on spaghetti. And I'm okay with that because I have fun with kids. And I challenge you to also have a little bit of fun with your kids. Thank you.